and Cohen was paid way more than Cohen ever laid out to keep Stormy Daniels quiet.
He was. Now, the state would say, well, that was part of their elaborate cover-up. But again, what's the cover-up? Because paying someone in return for an NDA is not illegal. And then labeling it in a ledger as a legal expense, well, isn't it a legal expense? What else would you say it is, other than if the state, I guess, wants him to say reimbursement for X, Y, and Z? But it's also unclear, and I think the defense team is arguing this, that Trump even knew how it was labeled in the book. Apparently, it was made by somebody else, a lower-level associate at Trump Tower, who was told to do so by her boss. So again, this just leaves us with, what is the problem exactly?
If Fox News viewers only knew just how little the network thinks of them, they'd be upset that their legal analyst has been paid to tell them that she just can't figure out what the crime is in the hush money case. But oddly enough, there are legal analysts that discovered the answer.
You know, when you get down to the gravamen, the center of the crime, it's about the payment for it and the use of funds and whether that's a campaign violation. That's what makes this, transforms this from a misdemeanor to a felony. And so the catch and kill, the idea that a newspaper would cover certain stories, not cover other stories, as Elliot said, that's fine, not a crime. What we have to focus on, and this is all the groundwork, we have to focus on the business records and whether there were false entries in the business records. And then, as the next step, did those payments constitute a campaign violation, a federal campaign violation that they were covering up? So it's not, you know, to say election interference, it's sort of not quite accurate for what the case is truly about, which is the payments. The payments were illegal, and the records were falsified to cover that up.
The payments were illegal, and the records were falsified to cover up those illegal payments. I guess since conservatives are only obsessed with the sex, that's where their concerns end. And by the way, if it was just about sex and their political enemies were the culprits, they'd be up in arms over it. Romney even dismantled the argument from some that the affairs never even happened.
I think everybody has made their own assessment of President Trump's character, and so far as I know, you don't pay someone $130,000 not to have sex with you.
Their wild defenses just don't make any sense. Any of them. It's why some of the narratives from the Party of Family Values actually embrace and celebrate Trump's philandering. It's a different Republican Party since the days of Bill Clinton's affairs.
Ex-National Enquirer publisher David Pecker was back on the stand. The prosecution hoping to convince the jury that Trump tried to hide damaging stories ahead of the 2016 election. Pecker testified that he's been catching and killing stories for a long time, which is perfectly legal last time we checked. And Pecker began doing it for Trump starting in 2015. He also testified under oath that Trump was popular with the ladies. Quote, Mr. Trump was well known as the most eligible bachelor and dated the most beautiful women.
Was Trump the most eligible bachelor and dated the most beautiful women before or after he read his Trump Bible? Maybe he used his reputation as a ladies' man as a hook to convert the most beautiful women to Christianity. You know, because we keep hearing about how Trump works for God. But back to Jesse Waters' quick conclusion that the case is about the fact that the National Enquirer was catching and killing stories, and that's not really illegal. But is that really all that it was about?
Under questioning from prosecutors, Pecker described a meeting he had with Trump and his former attorney, Michael Cohen, in 2015, where they asked, what can I do, and what my magazine could do to help the campaign. Pecker testified that he responded saying, what I would do is I would run or publish positive stories about Mr. Trump, and I would publish negative stories about his opponents. I said I would be your eyes and ears. He told the jury he saw the agreement as mutually beneficial. It would help his campaign, and it would also help me. Pecker said he began meeting with Cohen a minimum of every week, and if there was an issue, could be daily. He said he would go directly to Cohen when confronted with a negative story about Trump.
Right. Nothing stops National Enquirer from running positive stories about whoever they want to run stories about. Now, at the center of this case is this catch and kill scheme and falsifying records to cover up some of the details in some of these articles. You have to establish that there was a pattern of suppressing stories that were unfavorable to Trump.
Seems like a regular process for prosecutors to lay out the detailed scheme to catch and kill stories to benefit Trump's campaign, which sets the stage for how desperate he was to kill the ones about Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal. Desperate enough to pay Daniels off and break the law to cover it up. And now that he's on trial for those crimes, the desperation is in misrepresenting those facts to conservative viewers. They'd rather talk about how uncomfortable it is for Trump to stand trial, which has nothing to do with the laws that he allegedly broke either.
Donald Trump, been on the move his whole life. Golf, rallies, movement, action, sunlight, fresh air, freedom. This isn't lawfare, it's torture. They're making a 77-year-old man sit inside a dingy room for 8 hours straight, 4 days a week. And if he moves or talks, jail.
And I'm here in the courtroom, sitting here, sitting up as straight as I can all day long, because you know what? It's a very unfair situation.
Notice how Trump has issues with the uncomfortable parts of the legal process when he's going through it, but he wasn't always critical of the painful justice. In fact, he rooted for it.
When you see these thugs being thrown into the back of a paddy wagon, you just see them thrown in, rough. I said, please don't be too nice. Like when you guys put somebody in the car and you're protecting their head, you know, the way you put their hand over. Like, don't hit their head, and they've just killed somebody, don't hit their head. I said, you can take the hand away, okay?
It's weird how that works. The worst part is that this woe is me defense isn't really a flex. They say this 77-year-old guy is too uncomfortable in the cold courtroom. He can't stay awake. It's torturous for him to go through the legal process. So what's he going to do when he has to sit through boring intelligence briefings about our national security or discussions about important bills that he's set to sign into law? Sounds like his supporters don't think he's up for the job of president. The campaign ads against him just write themselves for these whiny defenses. But anyway, this ad is actually pretty damn good too.
I was wondering if you guys are hiring right now. I was thinking about applying for a job. I was thinking about applying for a job here. I'm currently facing 88 felonies. For detention of classified information. Do you all take people that have been found liable for sexual assault, trying to overturn the 2020 election, falsifying business records? I was wondering if that was going to be a problem.
You're working with diamonds and jewelry. They're going to do a background check.
Yeah.
So that's the only.
So probably not.
Yeah.
So do you guys hire people that sexually assault other people, or?
We run a phone background.
Okay.
No, we don't. I don't think so.
Okay.
Donald Trump has been charged with 88 felonies and found liable for sexual assault. If Trump is too big of a liability to get a job at your local mall, he is too big of a liability to be president of the United States. Republican Accountability PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
At least Trump's political career will inspire felons and sexual assault culprits to dream about one day being president instead of searching for minimum wage work. You know, for real, if you work at a Burger King and get fired over giving away free Whoppers to your friends, McDonald's isn't going to be very interested in your application if they catch wind of your history. But for MAGA, when it comes to being president, the more cases you catch, the better. Now, somehow, when the long arm of the law comes knocking, these proud Americans are ready to renounce their citizenship.
Well, I will say, Sean, like millions of your viewers, I consider myself to be a proud American. But after sitting in that dirty, disgusting criminal courtroom today, watching the former president of the United States being persecuted like a criminal, I don't know if I'm so proud to be an American anymore. Meanwhile, there are real criminals running free in the streets of this city every single day, being released by the same Democrat prosecutor who is going after President Trump.